Hello and welcome to this evening's episode of Mapping It Out, the dev diaries behind the scenes of Project Deios. My name is Guy and I will be taking you on a journey this evening as we learn some very interesting, exciting things and set a brand new benchmark for the power that we will have at our fingertips once Deios finally launches. I cannot wait. Tonight there is so much for us to go through, so many different facets. We're going to be looking at the launch of Feature Alpha, and when it drops, which is soon, we're going to be looking at a new UI, or at least why the new UI is what it is and things around that. We're going to look at deprecation protection, something that we've all been waiting for. I was certainly waiting to understand what the word deprecation meant, and so hopefully you will find out this evening. And then finally, performance enhancement, a huge performance enhancement. I'd like to say, 100 million, but, well, we only got a million, but still, what the hell am I talking about? You'll find out later on in the show. And then we're going to look at GM Notes, which is part of the Battlemaps Editor, but it has huge ramifications for Deios, and it's very exciting ramifications. Now, as usual, please type the word question in caps in front of your questions. I will collate them and look at them and try and go through them, and then I will ask them of Till, our guest, just as soon as there is a gap in the show tonight. So there's a lot to do, there's a lot going on. I'm super excited and I hope that you will be too. So let's get him in, and it's Till. Hello Till, how you doing?
Hello, hi everyone. I'm doing fine. I'm so close to having a vacation, so I'm great.
Well, that's good
But
to hear.
I'm also bringing like a huge backpack of cool stuff today, which you all know me is I'm so glad if I can reveal stuff and not kind of try to keep secrets. So yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a cool show.
Absolutely. Okay, so Till, the 18th of August. Why is
Yes.
that such an important date for us all now, very suddenly?
It has become since the moment that you spilled it out. It is the day that we are going to end technical alpha, which means it is the day that we will release. Well, for us internally, it is the day where we can leave all the tech alpha improvement and development and base foundation setting behind and just focus on features, which means for you, it is a cool date because it means a lot of new stuff in an update.
There we go. Fantastic. Now, this is officially, well, will be from the 18th, Feature Alpha, right?
Yes.
And that is testing the nice to have stuff. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, we're still in the parts where we're introducing the essential stuff, but it has nothing to do with the with getting your testing feedback on performance optimization, getting your testing feedback on the core foundations of Deus, because we have now, I can't remember, what, 6 months, 4 months of tech alpha testing in version 2 of our second attempt at Deus, the development. And it's quite promising. Here and there we get feedback from people who can't run the application, and we're looking at that, but this is the absolute minority. I would say about 98%, 99% of users give us feedback mainly on tools, which is great. So yes, we've done all we could to create the perfect foundation. And now we will be dropping step-by-step features.
Fantastic. So does that then mean that the technical side of things is done?
I mean, it doesn't mean that there isn't always like iteration per iteration. There will be performance optimizations and readjustments, because whenever we're adding new stuff, we probably have to then go back and see, did it affect something and do we need to tweak that? But just speaking about how the team is distributed at the moment. We have 2 people working on UI, 1 person working on GPU and rendering and graphics cards, CPU and GPU optimization and base works. And then we have 1 person left who is basically working on features, and that is going to change. That is going to change to 1 person working on kind of stability, performance improvements, 1 person, possibly 2 persons working on UI. So there is going to be a split where we say, I would say it's a 50-50 or 2/3, 1/3 split of people working on features, which I think I'm pretty confident will also speed up the process where we can release new features.
Fantastic. Now, what can we expect from Feature Alpha when it does drop on the 18th of August?
So the new UI, we always said the new UI is the last thing that we want to finish to release for Feature Alpha, because we need to make sure that the new UI works perfectly fine with Mac, Linux, and Windows. And the new UI is internally not finished, but in a state where we now need to replug in all the interfaces and tool panels that we need. So it's already working with a working build that we now just need to polish. Then we're going to have the color brush will be there. The deprecation manager will be implemented, and maybe with a slight, hopefully, the map label text tool will be in there.
That's quite a lot of things that we've been waiting for quite a while, I think. So that's a very exciting thing to look at. Now, the color tool, as you talk about it, now, is that going to be making use of all of that weird and wonderful mathematical geometry stuff that we talked about a couple of weeks?
The Wang tiles.
Yes, the Wang tiles. Is it going to be using that?
Kinda, but no, not really, because we had a very long, like this was probably one of the longest concept phases with Keora, was defining how the brush tool should work and perform so that an artist can use it properly. And with the recommendation of Keora, we said it is a base color tool with several options like opacity and brush size and softness and how do you call it, blend options. But mainly it is something where you can colorize and brush and shade colors onto your maps. When it comes to adding textures, and there we would then be back with Wang textures, that is actually something that we're going to address with the biomes. But with a color brush, you really want to apply color shadings to the map that you have created. And Keora was very intense on saying, no, don't mix this with textures, because that will create absolutely weird effects. That's not what you want to do. You want to have something where you just quickly can color shade and style your map. If you want to work with textures, offer them as a separate tool, and that's what we're going to do with the biomes.
Okay. Now, there was a bit of a delay in terms of releasing the color tool, and that's because it's linked to the other tool which you've been talking about. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So weirdly, when we said we want to start with the color tool, we realized that if we don't have a clear understanding of the biome tool, we might run into a situation where we have created a color tool that is not really compatible with the biome tool, because those concepts are to some degree interlinked, even if it's just for saving code where you don't have to write everything 2 times because it's sharing a lot of the code base. So we had to actually put a stop to the color brush tool and said, okay, before we continue, we need to understand in a very rough, rudimentary kind of proof of concept version how the biome tool functions. So we actually shifted gear and said, wait, let's do a base concept, base prototype for the biome tool so that we can take all the learnings from there and then bring that into or kind of combine that with the color brush. So that is done. I think I'm going to show a little bit of that biome prototype today, which is, again, very rudimentary. But with, I think, Thursday last week, I saw that the task of the color brush has been picked up and is being worked on. So we're expecting, after my vacation, we're expecting to have a first testing prototype ready. And ideally, if nothing breaks, if everything goes as expected, then the color brush tool will be available on the 18th with the version 0.3 release.
Okay, all right, yeah. So you did say that you have some very rudimentary explanations of how the biome is going to work. Should we shift to that quickly?
Yes, I would say you give me the countdown and
Sure.
I will walk you through the two things that I want to show.
Okay, and here we go. 3, 2, 1, switch.
Okay. So let me just quickly open that map. Oh, I hope I clicked on the right one. One takes some time to load. The other should load instantly. There you go. Okay. So let me zoom in here. So here you can see two very rudimentary biomes, right? And what you can do is, let me pick a cactus for now. And let's switch to the biome tool. As you see, for the working prototype, we have no interface at all. It's basically just a thing that I can apply, and then it creates a biome. Which means that it's hard to see. Let me see if I can.
Okay, so this is sort of a feathered edge.
Yes, and again, there is no softness applied yet because we don't need that actually for testing stuff. But you can see there is an inner area and an outer area. And then we randomize with the noise pattern, we randomize props on top of that. And the idea behind that is that we have, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but we had to play around with the way that this works because we want to pay attention to the fact that those biomes actually kind of blend when you move them into each other. So that you can create areas where, for example, dense forest goes into low forest, goes into high grass, goes into rocky stone areas. And we kind of had to figure out how we're going to do that, especially in terms of layering stuff.
Right.
When you then want to apply color brushes either on top of it or beneath it or between it. So we really had to get a base understanding of how those color brushes work and how those biomes work. Now, let me quickly, to explain that differently, switch to this one. This is just Photoshop, but I think it kind of illustrates quite nicely how the biome works. Because if you're applying the brush to a specific area, it always creates a high density, which is green, medium density yellow, and a low density red zone, which means it kind of works like a heat map. And you can then start to create areas that kind of blend into each other like that, which is, I think, very powerful. And of course, for this example here in Photoshop, I have almost no control options to say, do I want the low density to be wider or the mid density to be wider or the center density to be wider? But those should be options that you get when you're working with the Biomes tool. So you can address the low, mid, and high areas, like the radius, how wide are they? You can control the assets that are in there, or you use a predefined one that we have already set up. And then you can work with the scatter and noise patterns in there and the distribution. So you can control how dense is dense in the specific
Right.
areas.
And then
Yep.
is that moving towards a point where, for example, in this instance where we have the green area as being the most dense, would
Mhm.
that then collapse down to a stylized image? Is because I remember that was the sort of the idea of the biomes, was that it wasn't going to be
Um,
10,000 assets. It would become
yes,
one.
yes. So actually, this is something that we're going to work on once we've established the core mechanics for the biomes. This is specifically talking about the forest. I think the forest is the only one that really needs a completely different approach, because the forest canopy in our concepts, we wanted to do a forest canopy that is not consistent of 1,000 trees, but that is basically just the outline trees, and the canopy itself is a stylized flag cover.
Right.
So this concept that we're seeing here, I think it works perfectly with grass, with swamp, with rocky areas, tundras, mountains, but it will not work with forests. So this is why I can't really answer anything specific here, because we just haven't really worked out the best approach for it. It might be, as you said, it might be that we just take the high density area and put the canopy on top, or it might be a completely different approach in terms of how the tool works internally.
Absolutely, but it's fantastic progress to see this as far as it is. So there's a question that mirrors the question that I have here. The question comes from let's see, Damien the DM says, you said the color tool is coming. Will the biome tool be as well, or is it not ready for release yet, even in prototype form?
It's definitely not going to be finished on the 18th. And I actually said I want to hold it back until it is, because now I think the difference is, while we were in technical alpha, it was okay to dish out whatever we saw fit in terms of, okay, this needs to be tested now. But with the new UI, and now that we're kind of transitioning away from that into feature alpha, I want to hand out features when they are really finished, where we say, okay, there might be a two-phase where we say, this is base tool finished. What advanced options would you like to see? Or the tool is finished. Here you go, play with it and let us know how you like it. So no, on the 18th, you will not have the biome tool yet. But as you can see, we are already working on it. And I know that there are at least 2 other things in the pipeline before we really can or want to release the biomes. So I think it's more likely a September or October thing.
I also have to say that with the option of being able to select each prop and to build your sort of prop collection, with some props being more rare and others being, it's almost as if the biomes now would be a different way of drawing your map, rather than the next step in drawing your map. You'd be able to choose, really, I think, whether you wanted to collapse down or not.
I must say, when I started to play around with the biomes,
yes,
I realized that this is a much more convenient way to draw.
Building.
Because if you look down here, it's a beautiful forest. It's looking great. But modifying it is a pain in the ass. Because if you want to change up things, you actually have to select specific areas, which means a rectangular selection is not a great way to do it. That's why we said we want to have kind of a selector brush where you can select things in a brushy way. But still, you're selecting prop by prop by prop by prop to modify that forest. Whereas if I would be here and I go in here and I add and subtract to that shape, done. And I have all the assets in there, which means I'm basically just modifying shapes, and the scene is rendering everything. So I think in terms of speeding up things and being flexible on working with that, the biomes will be golden.
Absolutely. I mean, that's fantastic to think about it from that perspective. Mac and Weenies asks, Are there any thoughts on making the landmass tool blob tip as a variable amplitude tip to make more jagged lines without so much? It's got
Yes.
cut off. But
So,
you get the idea.
yeah, I get the idea. The thing is, we ourselves are not 100% happy with the way that we create coastlines. We know that there is so much space for improvement. And if you're following Damien's streams, because he's streaming Deis map making, then you can see he's working with a tablet, that he can create amazing outlines. But with a mouse, it's never looking good. So now that we are kind of working with a heat map solution for the biomes, we actually already discovered that this might be something that we want to revisit later for landmasses, where you kind of have a probably something like a, how do you call it, bump map thing, where you can raise and lower
Yes.
terrain to create a more natural coastline. So for now, we're not investing more time into the coastlines until we haven't established all the other tools that are essential. But I can promise you that there will be a date when we will go back and revisit the way that we're creating coastlines. And then we will look at better ways to make them look more natural.
Okay. I like that. Another question from Mac and Weenies. Will biomes be customizable or even have personal self-made biomes?
So yes, the idea is that if we create those mid, high, and low density areas, we will have presets for you that you can already just click and use, and it works perfectly fine. But we want to give you a custom biome where you can basically define the let's call them prop buckets. So each section has a prop bucket where you can drop props in, and then you define the density and the noise pattern and all that stuff for that specific area. And you also define ground texture and color. So you can customize those biomes quite heavily. We had, to be honest, I can't remember. You would have to, if you're part of our Discord, dungeonfog.com/discord, you could ask the question there once more, because right now I can't remember. I know that we've been talking about a way to allow users to write customizable plugins for Deis. So if you're someone who can code or program, but I don't know where that sits in terms of, can we do that? Do we want to do that? When are we going to do that? So I would be just flat out lying if I gave you an answer here.
Okay, but there is something in the works there. Watch this space or join the Discord, for example. Hopefully moderators can throw that link up into chat there. Now, Till, another thing that's on the horizon in the distant future is roads and rivers. They still need to be added. So what are you planning on doing there, and how are they going to work?
Okay. I think the core requirement is that when you draw a road or a river, and again, we're coming back to the fact that a lot of people are not having a drawing tablet. When you draw them with a mouse, they always look terrible. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a tool. It's going to be a paths tool, where you can draw a path, and we will basically create the road or the river along this path. But it will be like the path will be auto correcting, auto smoothing. So it looks better. And then you can define like the starting point and the center point, and you can, or between points, you can define whether or not it's decreasing or increasing in size. Excuse me. So it's going to be a fairly flexible paths tool that allows you to create rivers or roads or walls or probably cliff sides, things like that.
Okay, and that's not on the 18th, but that's in the future.
No,
That is, yeah.
that's in the future. And again, I think in terms of what's coming next, the 18th will come with so just in terms of talking about new tools, new shiny things that you can click on and play around. The 18th will come with the color brush. After that, we know it is on the list. It lost it so close. It lost its race to which one should be available on the 18th. After that will be the blueprint tool, so that you can upload images and use them as blueprints. That will be next. That will be one of the next releases. Again, probably the text tool will be available on the 18th, if not directly on the 18th, and very close afterwards. And then we're already growing really unhappy with the export option that is in there, because it's basically just creating a screenshot. So the export will be either before or after. So that one was the one that was heavily discussed with the blueprint tool. Which one should we do first? I said you guys want the blueprint tool, but my developers said no, we need to do the export first. And after that, we're almost like there isn't much left in terms of world map building. So then it's going to be roads and rivers.
Okay. We do have a roadmap. Do you want to talk about that now or a little bit later?
Yeah, let's bring it up. Let's talk about. Okay.
All right. So here we go. There is the roadmap.
Okay, I hope you can read it. If not, go to our website. There you can find the roadmap as well. It's on DungeonFog.com/Deios.
It's coming through nice and clear. Hopefully.
Hopefully, I can't read it. I have to open it somewhere else. Because if I'm looking at that roadmap, I don't see anything. Let me just quickly bring up my own roadmap here, so I can look at it. Okay. So core. The deprecation manager is already finished, so that's the only thing that we're doing kind of final adjustment for the core build. It's already working. I've already been testing it today, so that is part of the 18th release. The color brush is, as you can see, as we've talked about, is being started, but we're pretty confident that we will have it ready on the 18th. And the UI is midway through in terms of porting everything to the new UI. So this is what's going to happen on August the 18th. And afterwards, we're doing some core stuff, which is advanced export options. I'm not sure if we're going to do localization and Unicode support within like an intermediate update afterwards, but it's on our list. Same goes for macOS REM version, thumbnail rendering, and by fall, we want to have the account management and the login implemented so that this is also working. In terms of new tools, as you can see, Blueprints is top of the list because text tool was picked beforehand. So we're trying to do the text tool until August the 18th. And then there is going to be the prop eraser. And in terms of UI, there's going to be a new launcher and a better layers UI. And then everything else is going to come afterwards.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so that's a pretty good roadmap, I have to say. Very exciting stuff for us all.
Yeah, I mean, it's if we're keeping the momentum, if we can keep up with the development speed that we currently have, I think it is absolutely possible that by the end of the year we will be done with world map editing and hopefully already in Citymap development.
Right. Okay. Because that is the next big thing, isn't it?
That's the next big thing.
Once you can draw a planet, now you're going to be able to draw a city.
Yes.
So there we go.
So in terms of bigger roadmap scheme, we want to do the world map editing first. We want you guys to have a fully functioning world map editor. And then we want to work on the city map editor next until that one is working. And while we're working on the city map editor, we will slowly start working on the space editor, like the galaxy or solar system. And then last thing then is going to bring the Battlemap Editor into Deus.
Right. Right, and it makes sense. It really does. So the new UI that you're talking about, we saw that it was 50% sort of complete, and it's on its way. That's what is that going to allow us to do? What are we thinking there? Is it just making it look pretty?
Yes, actually, it is allowing us a lot of things to do. For you, because Bodhi did such a great style guide, and Bodhi did such a great, style guide is the word. You most likely will experience only in minor, like fine-graded details that the new UI is working. For us, it means that we are much faster in adding new tool panels and new UI stuff. And also layouting is much easier than with the nuclear integration that we have right now, because that was just, it was a pain. We said, okay, we hoped we could use nuclear, but we realized that it is so clunky that you have to put a lot of effort in building your user interface, that we went with Noasis, which is a kind of very high-end UI tool.
Okay, that's exciting. I mean, it's always nice to know that you guys don't have to sweat over stuff that shouldn't be sweated over. I mean, let's put the focus where it should be. And now, putting focus where you wanted it to be, you were quite emphatic about the deprecation protection system. And I remember when we were having the meeting for the show, you were like, yeah, the deprecation system is working. And I'm like, okay, great. I didn't know what that meant until my,
hard.
So
okay.
What is it for idiots like me?
Okay, it's basically, it is a tool. It's not even a tool. It's just integrated in Deus, and it's checking the version of your map. So for those of you who have been following all our alpha stages, you probably are in the same state that I am. You're kind of torn between looking forward to the next release and fearing the next release, because almost every new release meant that you couldn't use your old maps anymore. And now that the deprecation manager is finished, it will mean that you can, from all maps starting from August the 18th, will be automatically ported throughout new versions. So maps that you're creating today will most likely not be ported yet, but starting with the 18th, starting with feature alpha, we're basically saying now maps will prevail.
Yeah, prevail, but they'll be protected.
Yes, they will be constantly accessible throughout all versions, because we're taking all those maps and we're kind of internally applying all the changes necessary so that that map version is now compatible with the Deus version.
And Till, is that going to be compatible then once we get to beta and that sort of thing?
Yes, I sincerely hope. I mean, it's in programming, especially when you haven't established, when you have established basically 20% of the tools that should be in there. There is always a chance that we still run into something that would take a lot of time to port those maps. But my hopes are, and chances are good, that this will be the last time that we're going to say, oh, by the way, please export your maps as images because you're going to lose them. And also, I think this is in the spirit of where we're heading, because technical alpha, it is fine. It's just testing the technicalities of the software. But now that we're entering feature alpha, it's important that people start to use the tools, and specifically the tools, and give feedback on the tools, but they will not use the software if they're losing their map progress every time we dish out a new update. So yeah, that's the deprecation manager.
Okay. I know certainly from my side, it's like, oh, I really want to start building maps, but yes, they're going to disappear. So there was
Yes.
definitely a holdback. All right, that's fantastic. Now, you have a demo of an old map that you've worked on. Is that right?
Well,
It's a sort of demo.
it's a sort of demo, because the deprecation manager is so fresh. The map is from yesterday, so if you're calling it an old map, then it might feel a little bit sad. But it's also a very important map, because it's the map that showcases our new record.
That's right. So if you recall, it was only, when was it? A few months ago. It wasn't that long ago that we set a record, or Till set the record, for 100,000 assets on the map. Well, today you're about to see that new record. Till, do you want to show everybody what they are witnessing?
Now, this is going to be an interesting test for me, because before I click on that, I will see if I can explain the performance improvements that we have made before the map shows up, because that's what I'm going to talk about. So I think it's that map, and I'm going to click on it now. And as you can see, nothing happens at the moment because there are so many assets. But with the build yesterday, I had to wait 1.5 minutes until the map came up. And as you can see, it took 9 seconds. I stop clocked it a few times today. It took 9 seconds to load the map, which is quite incredible, because very much in the spirit of our last challenge. Oh, come on. I have created one of those zoom out maps.
Right, lovely. The big reveal.
Where you can see the more I go out, the more the spiral goes towards more assets and more assets and more assets and more assets. And then we have
love
the
the
little
color.
ta-da sun. And I think it's F8. Yes. When you look at the upper corner, I'm not sure if you can read it.
We can't see it. The zoom compression is killing your numbers.
Killing it. This is 1,222,000. I'm getting lost. 225,838. So it's almost 1,200 and whatever. It's over 1 million props.
1.2 million props.
It breaks. It's still like, the thing is, we went from 100,000 assets, which kind of went to the limits of performance, from 100,000 up to over 1 million, where the performance is now being hard on me.
Right.
And I went to the team and I said, is this the end of the road, or is this just where we are at the moment in terms of performance optimization? And they said, no, this is we still have a lot of leeway where we can dish out more performance. So I think from where we are, I think going up to at least 1 million assets with fluid performance, or not a drastical performance dip, is possible, and who knows? I'm really curious to see. It was mind-blowing, and also it was a lot easier to do that because I can now use scatter props, like the multiple prop brush. I can use that to create it, and I have used a few biomes to cheat a little bit in here, but it's over 1 million props on a single map, and it's still running on my PC, and it's quite. I wouldn't say that you can really use it anymore, but it was at 500,000 assets. I was starting to feel the impact. Before that, it was quite fluid.
That's fantastic, and it took 9 seconds to load up, which is even more
which is
impressive.
Amazing if you think, because I complained yesterday to the team, and I said, well, 1.5 minutes, that's quite hard. Like, do we really want to have people waiting 1.5 minutes to open a map? On the other hand, for some Photoshop files that you want to open, you also wait a minute until they open. So, but you need a loading bar, and people need to understand that you wait that, like probably something like games often do, where they're telling you what exactly they are currently processing. And then they said, no, I think we can do something, because that's the reason why we introduced the Sprite Atlas in the last update, was we can improve that. And then they sat down and built a new build and said, Till, can you test it again? And it was like, what? Okay, wait, I need to do that again with a stop clock, because I wasn't sure, was I paying attention? Was I not paying attention? So yeah, it went from 1.5 minutes down to 9 seconds, which is incredible.
There we go. I do see there's a message in chat saying that your prop limit may be very based on individual PC specifications.
Of course. I mean, sorry,
but yes.
That's like if you're running Photoshop and you want to open a Photoshop file that has, I don't know, 100 layers, that very much depends on your PC setup, if you can run it like that. It's a graphic software, so it's highly recommended that you treat it like that. But again, we're not done with performance optimization. So we will do our best to get it better performed, and you will do your best to treat it like a graphics software.
I thought it was to break
has some requirements. Yes, please break it.
Because then we then know. Has there ever been a calculation done where you've sort of figured out the average number of assets that a giant world map would have? Have you ever said sort of one asset per 3 pixels?
Oh, you mean like what the world?
Yes.
Like Earth. What Earth would have if you would do it with assets. Yes, we did. I think we did it. We actually didn't do it with Earth. We did it with Faerun. And I did it with Chaora. But I can't remember. I think 300,000. I think Chaora said that because he's working on a Faerun map, like the whole of it, and he said that he would assume that somewhere around 300,000 assets would be what he would be putting on the map.
Yeah. Okay. So as someone was saying in chat, yes, with 1 million assets, we're pretty much covered for almost all eventualities.
I think so too. And also, again, it's a different way that we are treating biomes in terms of rendering than single assets. So putting single assets in such an amount on the map puts a lot more stress on the renderer than doing it through a biome.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I think, especially in working with biomes, will bring a performance improvement just when it comes to big maps, because you're not using single assets on a big map, but you're most likely going to use biomes.
Biomes, there we go. Super exciting. So there you go. 1 million assets have been 1 million frost giants or stone golems, or it's just insane.
It was a very meditative process in doing that map with the spiraling.
I do like how it kind of compresses down to just generate these color washes. Very mandala like. Anyway, Till, we're going to shift gears now a little bit, because something has landed tonight, as a matter of fact. Is that right? In terms of do
we want to go back to
Yeah, I was thinking that. Let's do that very quickly. All right, so 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I forgot which screen I should go.
That's okay.
That one. That
there
was
we
the
go.
one.
Lovely.
Like, oh my god, I have so many different scenes in OBS. Which one was the green screen?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to DungeonFog Battlemap Maker, we know that that's an area where you can test concepts and test out different ideas and things, and those often will translate across into Deios as either inspiration or as actual mechanics and things. And today, there has been a total revision of something that has been part of Battlemap Maker from the beginning.
Yes.
That has launched in a patch tonight, is that correct?
Exactly. But that is a precursor of where we are heading, because it is essential, I think, for world map making.
Yes.
And those are the nodes. So
Right.
just a little excursus on where we came from. DungeonFog, the original DungeonFog Battlemap Editor, was a Kickstarter campaign back in 2017. And it kind of built on the columns that we want to help you to create your game prep as efficient as possible. And I think we had a very cool idea on that approach, where we said, well, one thing that I personally do not like when prepping games is that I often have to draw a map and then sit down and write notes. Or I download a map from the internet because I couldn't find the perfect fit, and then I would have to rewrite my notes according to that map. So one of the things that we asked ourselves back then was, can we make it that while you're drawing the map, you're kind of also writing the notes? And that was what we pitched as an idea back in the old Kickstarter campaign. Now with all the drawing tools and requirements and a lot of amazing feedback from the community, it never really reached the potential that it should have reached. And it was always pushed back. We always decided, oh no, we need to do lighting first and this first and that first. But now we finally found the time, and I think we've spent the time quite well, to do the GM notes, to completely revamp the GM notes to what we always envisioned for them to be. And because we did it now, we also kept in mind that how is that going to impact writing notes for Deus as well. So right now, apparently, it's not going to have any impact on Deus because it's not implemented in Deus. But the way we've been addressing it, the way we've been looking at it, has always been like, how is it going to work for GM nodes? For battle maps? And how is it going to work? Is the same concept applicable for world maps and world nodes in that regard?
I know that you very briefly mentioned that we might go to city maps starting at the beginning of next year. Would you put GM notes before that for the world map, or do you envisage that coming even later than city maps?
Because the way that the GM notes are constructed and the way that they are built, they are kind of in the same space as the Battlemap Editor, where we really need to understand either can we port them or kind of integrate them, or do we have to rebuild them? So we want to have all the core, because the other way around, if you have Deus or let's say if you have DungeonFog and you have Deus, drawing all those maps is doable. And then you can take those maps and put them into the nodes in the online editor already. So we want to do the things that you can't do at the moment first before we address the things that are not ideal but doable at the moment.
Gotcha. Absolutely. And you've actually got a demo to show us so we can have a visualization of what it is that we're going to see. So let's switch across in 3, 2, 1.
I'm too slow. I'm just too slow today. It's all right. Okay. So this is the new notes tool, and as you can see, just to have a little reference to Deus, I've used the Deus map to put it in there, and this is exactly what I was saying beforehand. Is the way that the notes tool works. It basically is a flat out text editor that comes with a lot of intricate details and features that allow you to really quickly build notes out of the map that you have drawn. So I'm not going to switch to the editor, but as you can see, or just trust me for a minute, there is a whole several layer map behind that node. So I've created a map, and now I'm adding nodes to it. And just to give you a brief rundown of how it works is I just take all those content elements. I can take any of those, drop it in there, and then write a nice message. And then I can, of course, I can select all of that and whatever, do bold and change the size of it. I can insert tables. I have a lot of formatting options there. So this is where it's just a text editor. And I can use, which I think is quite helpful, I can use those layout options to start and style stuff. By the way, I want to show my borders here. So now I could drop an image. Let's do a map element in here, because this is actually where the system starts to draw from the map, which could be either a battle map or a city map or a world map. That doesn't matter. Right now it matters because one thing you have to upload and the other thing is kind of automatically generated. But once everything is merged, you would just access those things by selecting the map that you want to add in there. And as you can see, this is the full map, and there we have a lot of layers in here. And I can go in each layer. I could go in the second layer and take the whole group, the room group, or I could take a particular specific room and put it in there. So let's put just this room, and I say include the dynamic summary, and this is being generated by us. So as you can see, you can automatically drop the image, and then you get a room description that describes kind of similar to what a stat block would look like. How's the appeal? Where do the exits go? What objects are in there? Are there any hidden things, traps, or NPCs in there? And I can do that with all the various different things. But I can also, yes, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I can also drop World Anvil articles in there, so you can connect your account with your World Anvil account. I think if you have a Grandmaster account of World Anvil, you have the option to connect APIs, which means that I could go and drag something from World Anvil into my notes here. It's very rudimentary at the moment. I can add a stat block. I can quickly add the OGL license at the bottom if you want to publish the PDF.
That's for Dungeons and Dragons specifically.
That's for Dungeons and Dragons specifically. But in the sphere of our usership, we realize that most of them are, like the majority is playing Dungeons and Dragons, so this might be important. And then on top of that, it's nice. You have, let me see, that you have different formatting options where you could switch, like if you're actually not playing fantasy, but you have more like a galaxy game, like this is a very specific galaxy style here. So you can restyle your notes. Let me see, what else do we have here? Lovecraftian.
I see the fonts have changed as well. Now you have complete control over all of those things. And when you say it's quite a complex thing, it isn't that complicated because you've made it so simple. Yes.
Yes. No. I mean, the cool thing is it's very simple to use if you want to have a simple tool. But if you want to go into the depths and details of things, then you can do quite a lot of stuff. So just to demonstrate, let me quickly go into another map. And that's that one. Let me go into the notes. Here I've played with all the options that are available to style something that is, to my belief, something that would be ready for publishing in terms of if you're not having InDesign, if you really want to publish something on your own, and you need a tool to lay out, as you can see, this is like all of this This is the adventure that you and I wrote written together. So all of this is done in the editor, and you can have those corner backdrop images, or you can backdrop images behind those content blocks. So it's a very powerful layout tool as well, which means that you have to go into the formatting options and actually play around with them a little bit. But I know someone who's going to do a few tutorials on that in the upcoming weeks. So you're getting help. We're not dropping that in your face and say, okay, now live with it. There's going to be tutorials and help, and we have a new channel on Discord that's called Notes Help, so you can go there and ask questions. But basically, this is our, again, step 1, which means now those nodes are attached to a specific map. And step 2 will be, and we're starting to work on that in fall because we are hiring at the moment. We're hopefully getting, by the end of summer, we have someone who's going to assist Andy in updating the nodes and writing more stuff to that. So Andy can focus on Battlemap features. Step 2 is going to uncouple nodes from maps and basically turn the concept around, where you say, I have a node, which maps do I want to drop in there? And once we are there, we're only one step away from saying, well, which map do we want to drop? Is it a city map? Is it a battle map? Is it a world map? Is it a region map? Is it a political map? Is it a space map? Doesn't really matter, because you're saying this map, I want to drop it in there, and all the meta information we can read from the map information and create those dynamic stat blocks or infos for you.
I think that's fantastic. And then the idea, of course, is that everything that you can do here with this look and this feel, this really professional, slick look, that's what's going to be done in Deios as well. It will be a duplicate, effectively.
Yes, ideally, it won't be even a duplicate. It would be an integration, which means we can take the whole thing and put it in Deios.
Right.
But if not, it will be very similar. And again, it's very early. We have a lot of concepts flying around where we can say, how can we make that? It's definitely going to be a way where you say, I create nodes, and then I have my maps and I put them in the nodes, and they have all the meta information that we need to create the vital chunks for you.
Well, there we go. Till we have run out of time, as we usually do. And so just want to say a big thank you for you joining us tonight and for doing that demo. A million props. Absolutely crazy. As well as taking us down this journey. Cannot wait for the 18th of August. I think we're going to see a lot of maps being made thereafter because of that deprecation protection. So, Till, where can people find you outside of this show?
Well, you can find me for the next week. You will not find me anywhere, which means there's not going to be a Tuesday stream and there's not going to be a Thursday stream next week, because I am on a beach having a cocktail and not thinking about work at all. Most likely planning my next campaign. But
fantastic.
Apart from that, the best way to get in touch with me is on Discord, which is dungeonfog.com/Discord. Me and my team, we're always hanging out there. So if you want to chat us up, feel free to do so. You can find us on social media. It's DungeonFog. It's at DungeonFog on Instagram. It's at DungeonFog on Twitter. It's DungeonFog on Facebook. So that's where you can reach us.
And I see those links are all being shared up in chat now. By the Botosaurus.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. All right. So enjoy your well-deserved break, I think. And if you happen to be in the UK this coming weekend and you want to see what DungeonFog maps look like printed out, high-resolution DungeonFog maps, come and meet me at UK Games Expo. I will be there in Wayland Avenue for the entire weekend, where I will be demonstrating the absolutely amazing maps that we made using DungeonFog for the book Epic Battle Maps. It really is a difference. If you are only used to using these battle maps and VTTs, come and have a look, because I promise you, when I first saw them printed out, I went mind blown. They're absolutely spectacular and beautiful. So
anyways, since I mean, I have a sad eye and a happy eye, because my happy eye is sitting on a beach and drinking a cocktail, but my sad eye is I would have loved to be there. So guys, if you have any opportunity, go and say hi to Guy in my regard. I think also there might be opportunities to win some stuff there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But you have to come to the stand to find out.
Yeah. So go to the stand, say hi from Till. And Guy, I wish you all the best. I hope you're going to enjoy it. I love conventions. So I hope you're going to enjoy it too.
There we go. And so that leaves us with only one thing to say. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back next month once the first of Future Alpha has dropped. I'm sure there will be plenty for us to talk about then. Until then, however, from both of us, I think all that needs left to be saying is happy map making. Goodbye.
Bye.